At my son's wedding, his bride looked me straight in the eye and said, "Get out and don't come back. You're not welcome here." I just smiled and said, "All right, but I'll be taking a few others with me." When she saw who walked out by my side, she screamed in shock. I thought retirement would be peaceful, just me and my blueprints, dreaming of gardens instead of skyscrapers. But then my son showed up on my porch, grinning like he'd won the lottery, a woman I'd never seen before glued to his side, and dropped a bombshell that would unravel his entire future. "Dad, we're engaged." The words hit me like a wrecking ball. No phone call, no gentle introduction, just this sudden, flashy presentation, like he'd bought a sports car on impulse. "Come in," I managed, stepping aside, a knot already forming in my stomach. "This is unexpected." Rufus practically vibrated with nervous energy. I know. But when you know, right?" She extended her hand, a practiced, confident grip. "Expensive French tips, a designer watch." "Celeste Morgan," she purred, "I've heard so much about you, Mr. Boyd. Rufus says you designed half the notable buildings in Portland." I corrected her, functional is more accurate. "Please call me Delbert." She just smiled, her eyes sweeping my entryway, crown molding, walnut banister, calculating dimensions, appraising, not admiring. "This craftsmanship is extraordinary. They don't build like this anymore." She absorbed the information like someone assessing inventory. It wasn't praise, it was an audit. In the living room, as I made coffee, I could hear her. "Square footage? Property lines? Neighborhood development patterns?" Her voice, smooth and professional, sent shivers down my spine. I'd heard that tone before in contractor meetings, people who measured value before appreciating beauty. "So, how did you two meet?" I asked, returning with the tray. Rufus launched into a breathless tale, networking event, industry connection, cinematic glances across a conference hall. Celeste interjected, "I work with high-net-worth clients, primarily property portfolios, investment strategies, estate transitions." She dropped high net worth 3 times in 5 minutes. Her passion for ethical development, she claimed, drew her to Rufus. Then came the questions. "What about your family?" She deflected, "Seattle originally, but we weren't close." "I prefer looking forward, not back." A practiced compliment about my house, my talent. It felt rehearsed. I just sipped my coffee, saying nothing. Then Rufus, beaming, pulled out a thick envelope. "Celeste suggested something I think shows real maturity," he announced, "a prenuptial agreement for transparency and mutual protection." He handed it to me like it was proof of her virtue. I slowly put on my reading glasses, needing time to process this new development. 20 pages of legal language. "Thorough," I murmured. "My attorney drafted it," Celeste explained, her voice firm. "Smart partnerships have clear terms. Don't you agree, Delbert?" My blood ran cold as I flipped through. Clause 7. All family assets acquired during marriage subject to equal division. Not just marital assets, family assets. Clause 12. Inheritance received during marriage becomes marital property after 1 year. Has Rufus had independent legal review? I asked. Rufus bristled, but I interrupted him gently. Standard practice, son. Any major contract deserves 2 perspectives. Celeste redirected him with a subtle touch. Would you like to see the rest of the house, Delbert? I'm fascinated by this period's architecture. As we toured, she photographed my crown molding, supposedly for inspiration, but her angles seemed to capture more than just decorative details. In the master bedroom, she paused by the window, a calculating glint in her eyes. Such a large house for one person, she observed. Have you considered what happens to it eventually? The question landed with the weight of a stone. Eventually is a long way off, I replied, my tone icy. She smiled. Of course. Just thinking about estate planning. Rufus mentioned you haven't updated your will recently. Did he? That's a private matter between father and son. She backtracked with professional grace. Family should discuss these things openly. Prevents misunderstandings later. I preferred preventing misunderstandings now. At the door, Celeste hugged me, a calculated warmth. I'll take good care of him, she whispered against my shoulder. And I'm so glad we'll be family. The emphasis on family sounded less inclusive, more possessive. After they left, I stood there, clutching that prenup. Small details accumulated, like structural defects in an inspection, the diamond bracelet, worth 6 months of a consultant's salary, the designer handbag, her unsettling knowledge of inheritance law, questions about my will, not my favorite foods. I spread the contract on my desk, circling clauses, underlining, and in the margin, I wrote one word: why? The weeks crawled by with a suffocating normalcy. Rufus called, gushing about wedding plans. I played the supportive father, but the prenup gnawed at me. I'd read it 17 times, each reading uncovering new traps in the legal jargon. But instincts weren't evidence, and my son was blinded by infatuation. Then, one warm April afternoon, a former colleague canceled a lunch meeting. As I sat waiting, across the restaurant, half obscured by a potted plant, I saw her. Celeste. And a man. Early 40s, expensive suit. Their body language screamed intimacy. Her hand covered his on the table, his thumb stroking her wrist with familiar ease. My first instinct was to confront her, but 40 years of architectural discipline overrode the surge of emotion. What would I say? Who's that? She'd have a ready explanation. Business meeting. Old friend. I needed more. I needed a pattern. I subtly moved to a better vantage point, pulled out my phone, and pretended to check messages while activating the camera. For 20 minutes, I watched with the precision I once applied to blueprints. Every gesture, her fingers tracing his forearm, his hand touching her cheek, them sharing dessert with a single fork, laughing. When they paid, the man settled the bill without a glance. Expensive wine, multiple courses. This wasn't a first or second date, it was an established relationship. They exited separately, professional caution indicating they knew they needed to hide. I followed to the parking lot. He climbed into a black Mercedes. I photographed the license plate, clear as day. My lunch with my colleague was a blur. My mind was already churning through implications, possibilities, strategies. I drove straight to Philip Torres, a journalist I knew. Philip, I said, I need a favor. A discreet one. He raised an eyebrow. Discreet usually means trouble. I gave him the license plate number. Family trouble. 30 minutes and 2 phone calls later, I had a name. Daniel Kraus, a luxury real estate agent. Same man. Match confirmed. Now I needed depth. I found Marcus Webb, a private investigator specializing in financial fraud and infidelity. Webb was unremarkable, mid-40s, average build, a face designed for surveillance. I laid it out: son's fiancé, suspicious prenup, intimate lunch with another man. I need her background investigated. Romantic history, financial patterns. Webb quoted his rate, stone-faced. Whatever it takes, I said. He asked one question: if I find what you're afraid I'll find, what will you do? I met his gaze. Protect my son. He nodded. 2 weeks. I'll be thorough. Those 2 weeks stretched like 2 months. I maintained my facade for Rufus, smiling, asking about wedding details. Celeste, performing perfectly, was affectionate to him, respectful to me. If I hadn't seen her with Daniel, I might have bought the act. But I had seen, and now I was waiting. Webb called on May 2nd. Report's ready. You'll want privacy when you read it. His office. A thick folder, 60 pages. Took some digging, he said. But the pattern's clear. She's done this before. Twice. I opened the folder. Marriage certificate. Celeste Morgan to James Whitfield, 2019. Divorce filing, 2021. Settlement, $180,000. Another marriage certificate. Celeste Morgan to Richard Brennan, 2022. Divorce filing, 2023. Settlement, $250,000. Photographic surveillance. Celeste meeting Daniel Kraus 6 times in 2 weeks. Hotel receipts, restaurant bills. They'd been involved for at least 8 months, longer than she'd known Rufus. Webb's handwritten note on the final page. She's getting better at this. I closed the folder, the weight of the realization crushing me. My son wasn't in love. He was a mark, a target, a carefully planned transaction. Webb asked, recommendation? Show him this today. Not yet, I said slowly. If I approach this wrong, she'll convince him I'm paranoid. I need better timing. A complete strategy. Don't wait too long, Webb warned. Weddings in 4 months. I stood, the folder in my hand. I won't let it happen. Trust me on that. Driving home, my mind raced. How to stop this without destroying my relationship with Rufus? That report was a stack of nails for Celeste's coffin, but hammering them required precision. Too early, and she'd spin it, paint me as a jealous, controlling father. Too late, and legal protections would kick in. Timing was everything. I needed a lawyer. Patricia Reynolds, specializing in prenuptial disputes and fraud cases. Her office in a renovated Victorian. I explained everything, showed her Webb's report. She studied it with fierce concentration. Oregon law allows voiding contracts obtained through fraud. Your challenge is proving intent. She explained, pattern of behavior, financial motivation, concealment. The previous marriages would establish the pattern. Daniel Kraus proved ongoing deception. But we needed testimony from previous husbands. $5,000 retainer, she stated. I wrote the check immediately. Document everything from this point forward. And, she added, record conversations if Oregon's a one-party consent state. It is. Get your son's permission for a family history project. Don't tell him why yet. I left with a legal roadmap. I sent Webb after the previous husbands. Kevin Morgan, Seattle tech consultant, divorced Celeste 3 years ago. James Pritchard, harder to find. When Webb found Kevin, he told him about Rufus. Kevin went silent. Then, tell the father I'll talk to him. Not an investigator. The father directly. That evening, Rufus called. Celeste wanted to bond more with Dad over brunch. Perfect. Son, I said, this is a significant time. Would you mind if I recorded some of our conversations? For a family history project, something you and Celeste can look back on. Rufus, touched by the sentiment, enthusiastically agreed. I bought a discreet, voice-activated recorder. I created an encrypted folder, Family Archive 2025, a meticulous documentation system. The Saturday of brunch, the recorder was in my shirt pocket. Celeste arrived with practiced warmth, expensive pastries, compliments for my garden. Over coffee, she initiated smoothly. Delbert, Rufus mentioned you haven't updated your will since his mother passed. Estate law changes, tax implications shift. Have you considered reviewing it? I played my role, slightly confused, appreciative. Never been good with legal paperwork. You understand these matters. She leaned forward, eager. I work with attorneys regularly. I'd be happy to recommend someone, or we could discuss this as a family. Understanding everyone's situation helps with long-term planning. Family planning? I repeated carefully. You mean after you and Rufus marry? Exactly, she chirped. Combined household finances, shared resources, coordinated investments. Modern families operate as economic units. Rufus chimed in, oblivious. Makes sense, Dad. Celeste has a business degree. She's better at financial strategy than either of us. I nodded, feigning elderly confusion. So, you're suggesting what exactly? Her smile sharpened microscopically. Just transparency. Knowing what assets exist, how they're structured, what succession plans are. Prevents family conflicts later. I noted how quickly later entered her vocabulary. She was already planning my death. I'll think about it, I said mildly. After they left, I uploaded the recording, timestamping key moments. Combined household, shared resources, succession plans. She wasn't planning a marriage, she was planning an acquisition. In the next 2 weeks, her probes grew more blatant. This house is so large. Have you considered downsizing? Rufus and I could buy it from you at a fair price. Or life insurance policies. Do you have adequate coverage? Rufus should be the beneficiary. I recorded everything, maintaining my naive persona. You're so thoughtful to help with these things. I never know what I'm doing. Internally, I cataloged her tactics with clinical precision. She was accelerating the timeline, making mistakes, getting sloppy. Perfect. Late that second week, I transformed the spare bedroom into a command center. A large corkboard, colored pins, index cards. Celeste's photograph at the center. Timelines, previous marriages, legal strategy options, connected by colored strings. A visual architecture, like a blueprint, helping me see the pattern, plan my moves. One evening, reviewing a recording where Celeste asked about my investment portfolio, a cold fury I'd been suppressing finally broke through. She actually said, "You're 62, as if calculating my remaining years until inheritance. She wasn't planning a wedding. She was planning an acquisition schedule. Not while I was breathing. Then Webb called. He'd found Kevin Morgan. He got very quiet when I mentioned the investigation, then asked if the new victim had children. When I said, grown son, Morgan said, tell the father I'll talk to him, not to an investigator, to the father directly. So, I was driving to Seattle. The folder beside me on the passenger seat, full of Webb's report, photos of Celeste with Daniel, documented manipulation. Kevin chose a quiet Capitol Hill cafe. He entered, professionally dressed, visible caution in his body language. Mr. Morgan, Delbert Boyd. Thank you. He assessed me. Your investigator said she's engaged to your son. How old? 37. Kevin winced. Perfect age. Old enough to have assets, young enough to rebuild a career. I was 39 when I met her. We ordered coffee. How are you now? I asked. Kevin appreciated it. Better. But emotional recovery is ongoing. His honesty broke the ice. I'm trying to prevent my son from experiencing what you did. Kevin nodded slowly. You're fighting a professional. She studied this. Perfected it. Made it a career. For the next hour, he described it all. The networking event, her strategic positioning, her interest in his work, the intense courtship, the when you know line. The prenup, presented as mutual protection, designed to seem balanced. But the clauses, family assets acquired during marriage, they were traps. His father died 8 months into their marriage, leaving him $150,000 and a vintage car collection. It became marital property. The marriage lasted 18 months. She changed. Distant, critical, demanding. He found hotel receipts. Confronted her. She filed for divorce. The settlement cost him $180,000 and a 30% stake in his business. She knew the timing, he said, his hands shaking slightly. Waited until the inheritance cleared, then pulled the trigger. The whole thing was planned. I shared my folder. Kevin reviewed it. Recognition growing. Same pattern. Exactly. Family resource consolidation, she used those exact words with me. It's scripted. He saw the photos of Celeste with Daniel. Different man, same dynamic. She always has a backup plan. Would you testify? I asked. Kevin didn't hesitate. Yes. I should have spoken up after she married the second husband. Guilt's been eating at me. You're warning me now, I said gently. That's what matters. We drafted his statement, detailed timelines, manipulation tactics, financial outcomes. He signed it. She shouldn't be allowed to keep doing this. Kevin offered a final, grim insight. Your son won't believe you at first. I wouldn't have believed anyone. She's that good at creating an alternative reality. She'll have an explanation for everything. I acknowledged my fear. It's already happening. He's distant. Canceling dinners. Kevin nodded. Textbook. Separate the target from their support system, especially skeptics. Timing's crucial. You need overwhelming evidence, presented at a moment he can't dismiss it. Not gradual revelation. A single, devastating confrontation with irrefutable proof. I absorbed it. I'm building toward that. When I show him, it'll be the complete picture. Kevin shook my hand firmly. Save your son. I wish someone had saved me. I drove back to Portland, Kevin's statement secured beside me. Momentum shifted. The abstract became concrete. But as I crossed into Oregon, a text from Rufus. Dad, sorry to cancel Sunday dinner again. Wedding planning is crazy busy. Celeste says we need to finalize the venue. Rain check. Third cancellation in 4 weeks. Isolation by increments. Each excuse reasonable, the cumulative effect separating him from protection. The wedding was 10 weeks away. Could I build a complete case before Rufus was legally trapped? An architect's challenge. The answer had to be yes. I connected Kevin's testimony to Celeste's current manipulation on my command center board. The pattern was undeniable, a professional operation. But gathering evidence and reaching my son were different challenges. The cancellations continued. By mid-July, I knew Celeste sensed something. My guard had slipped, or her instincts were too sharp. She was moving to neutralize me. One Wednesday evening, Rufus called, his voice strained. "Dad, we need to talk." Celeste thinks. I've been thinking about our relationship. Warning bells screamed. "You've been distant," he said. "When we visit, you ask strange questions. Celeste noticed you recording conversations. She thinks it's because you don't trust her." My mind raced. How did she know? "Son, those recordings are for family memories, like I explained. But why do you need to record everything? It feels like surveillance. Like you're looking for problems that don't exist." That phrase was Celeste's. He continued, "She says you're having trouble letting me go, that parents sabotage relationships because they fear abandonment. Textbook manipulation, reframe protective concern as selfish control." I kept my voice neutral. "I support your happiness, Rufus. Always have." "Then why does Celeste feel unwelcome? Why do you interrogate her about finances and estate planning?" "I don't interrogate. I engage in conversation. She initiates." He grew defensive. The call ended with him saying, "Maybe we should take a break from dinners until after the wedding. Give everyone space." I agreed. What choice did I have? Complete isolation achieved. The next morning, Reynolds listened, sympathetic. "She's protecting her investment. Your son is an asset. She won't let you interfere without a fight. Can I approach him now? Show him the evidence." Reynolds shook her head firmly. "Partial revelation is dangerous. You show him the investigation, she'll explain it away. Your father's paranoid. You present the previous marriages, she'll say, 'I was young, I made mistakes.' You show Daniel Kraus, she'll say, 'business associate.' Every piece of evidence you reveal prematurely, she builds antibodies against. She'll inoculate him against the truth. So I do nothing while she turns him against me? You continue building the case. We need overwhelming proof, presented at a moment she cannot spin it. The wedding day itself might be ideal. Public setting, emotional stakes high. Her guard lowered by perceived victory. I considered this. You're suggesting I let the wedding proceed to the brink of disaster. I'm suggesting you strike when the target is most vulnerable. She expects opposition before the wedding. She won't expect it at the wedding. Element of surprise is your advantage. That afternoon, Webb called. She met Daniel again. Downtown Marriott, room 847. 3 hours yesterday. He'd planted an audio device in the hallway. Not admissible in court, but gives us intelligence. He emailed the file. I downloaded it, played it through headphones. Muffled voices. A door opening. Celeste's laugh. Daniel's low voice. The door closed, but the device captured their conversation through poor insulation. The words clear enough. Celeste, 10 more weeks of this charade. Wedding's August 16th. After that, the timeline accelerates. And the father? He's a problem handled. I've isolated the son effectively. Old man can suspect whatever he wants. Rufus won't believe him now. Sound of ice and glass. Daniel, you said that about Morgan's brother. He nearly derailed everything. Celeste, this is different. Rufus is more malleable. No close family except father, and I've poisoned that relationship. After the wedding, the prenup activates. Give it 18 months. Daniel, 18 months playing devoted wife? Celeste, I've done longer. Remember the contractor? 2 years of that tedium. This one's easier. He actually believes I love him. Cruel laughter from both. I stopped the playback. Sat in silence. Her voice. Not the warm, concerned tone she used with me, but cold, calculating. It crystallized everything. This wasn't romance gone wrong. This was premeditated fraud. And Rufus was completely blind. That Sunday, I violated my own strategic patience. Drove to Rufus's apartment unannounced, hoping to catch him alone. He answered, surprise bordering on irritation. Dad, what are you doing here? He didn't invite me in. We talked in the doorway, stilted. Son, have you had an independent attorney review the prenup? Why would I need that? Celeste's attorney drafted it fairly. It's standard practice to have separate counsel. Dad, stop. This is exactly what Celeste warned about. You're trying to undermine our relationship. I saw Celeste's purse on the table inside. She was listening. Coaching. I'm trying to protect you. I don't need protection. I'm 37, capable of my own decisions. Rufus, please just listen. No, you listen. If you can't support this marriage, maybe you shouldn't attend the wedding. Think about that. He closed the door. I stood in the empty hallway, feeling defeat. Reynolds was right. Partial approach failed. I needed overwhelming confrontation, not gentle persuasion. But the cost was watching my son drift into disaster while I prepared. Back home, I updated the command center board. Counterattack timeline. Each cancellation, Rufus's changing language, Celeste's escalating control. The hotel recording transcript. The evidence covered an entire wall now. Financial documents, surveillance photos, Kevin Morgan's testimony, recorded conversations, timeline analysis. Any objective observer would see the clear pattern. But Rufus wasn't objective. He was the target, the mark, the victim in progress. I stood before the board, an architect analyzing a complex structure. The foundation was solid: legal framework, victim testimony, surveillance, documented manipulation. But timing remained the critical variable. Strike too early, the structure collapsed. Wait too long, Rufus was legally trapped. The wedding, August 16th, loomed like a deadline. 8 weeks away. I made my decision. Let Celeste think she'd won. Play the defeated father, accepting loss. Lower her guard completely. Then, at the wedding, when she was most vulnerable, most confident, most exposed, strike decisively. No warning. No mercy. Complete revelation. Late July became early August. Weeks of silence from Rufus. I resisted every urge to reach out. Let Celeste believe she'd won. Meanwhile, the work continued. Webb's final reports. Celeste and Daniel met 4 times in 10 days leading up to the wedding. Hotel rooms, expensive restaurants, extended afternoons at his waterfront condo. They were planning the post-wedding phase, confident in their scheme. Reynolds organized the evidence: Kevin Morgan's testimony, financial documents, surveillance, recordings, prenup analysis. This would convince any judge, she said. But your audience is your son, not a court. Arrange it for emotional impact, not just legal strength. 2 weeks before the wedding, I was ready. Then the phone rang. It was Rufus. First call in 3 weeks. Dad. His voice uncertain. Wedding Saturday. I know we've had distance, but you're still my father. I want you there. I was careful. Does Celeste want me there? He trailed off. She thinks maybe it's not a good idea, but it's my wedding too. I'm inviting you. I appreciate that. Of course I'll attend. Really? I thought, I'll always support your happiness, Rufus. More silence. Ceremony at 3 p.m., Brookside Country Club. You don't have to stay long. I'll stay as long as appropriate. But I need to tell you something important at the wedding. Will you give me a few minutes, before or after? His defensive tone returned. If this is more criticism of Celeste, it's information. About your future. Your marriage. What you do with it is your choice. Just promise you'll listen. Reluctantly, fine. After the ceremony. Brief conversation. Thank you. That's all I ask. The call ended. Rufus reaching out despite Celeste's objections. Some part of him still wanted his father. The revelation would devastate him, but the alternative was worse. I organized months of material into 3 identical evidence packets, one for Rufus, one for Reynolds, one for me. Each chronologically organized: Kevin Morgan's testimony, photos of Celeste with Daniel, transcripts of recorded conversations highlighting financial probing, isolation tactics. And the smoking gun, the hotel hallway recording, where Celeste and Daniel discuss the timeline, financial calculations, their explicit acknowledgement of the scheme. Finally, Reynolds's legal analysis. Each section tabbed, key passages highlighted. A masterwork of architectural organization, building systematically to an undeniable conclusion. I sealed them, labeled them the truth about Celeste Morgan, and stored them carefully. Reynolds offered final advice. Wedding day revelation is high risk. Rufus will be vulnerable, defensive. Celeste will control the narrative. Present everything at once. Give him no time to process through her filter. What's your extraction plan? Extraction? After the revelation, Rufus will need space. She'll try to isolate him immediately. Spin the evidence. You need somewhere he can go. I hadn't considered it. My house, I said. I'll insist he come home with me. Reynolds nodded. Good. Have a bag packed for him. Show him you're prepared to support him through the aftermath. Webb delivered his final materials, photos of Celeste and Daniel at a waterfront restaurant 3 days prior. They're finalizing post-wedding plans. She's stressed, he's reassuring. Daniel, Webb revealed, had been paying for their hotels, dinners, even expensive jewelry. He's invested significantly in this relationship. So Daniel was a victim too, in a way. A willing victim, Webb corrected. He knows what she's doing to your son. That recording proved it. He's complicit. Webb extended his hand. Good luck. This has been the most satisfying case in years. Stopping a predator before she completes the cycle. The night before, I laid out my suit, checked the evidence folder, tested my small digital recorder. I reviewed my talking points. Sat in the command center one final time, then dismantled the board, filing everything away. Sleep was elusive. I lay in the dark, my mind running through scenarios. Best case, Rufus sees the truth immediately, leaves with me. Worst case, he believes her spin, goes through with the wedding. Most likely, confusion, denial, then gradual acceptance. I was prepared for all of it. As dawn broke, I finally slept, dreaming of buildings collapsing, of foundations that held and those that failed. I woke at 6 a.m. Wedding day. The wedding morning dawned gray, threatening rain that never came. I dressed methodically, charcoal suit, white shirt, conservative tie. The evidence folder slipped into my jacket pocket, a barely noticeable weight, but its presence was constant. The digital recorder, fully charged, memory clear, voice activated, slipped into place. I arrived at Brookside Country Club 90 minutes early. I needed to map the terrain, identify private spaces. The club was beautiful, manicured lawns, discreet wealth. Inside, controlled chaos, florists, caterers, photographers. I positioned myself strategically, back row, aisle seat, clear sightline. Guests arrived. Celeste's side filled quickly with well-dressed strangers. Rufus's side remained sparse, evidence of the isolation she'd engineered. The processional music began. Celeste appeared at the aisle's head, objectively beautiful in an elaborate white gown that must have cost a fortune. She walked toward Rufus with practiced grace, a radiant, confident smile. I subtly activated the recorder. I promised to love, honor, cherish. Each word from Celeste's mouth felt like a documented lie. Rings were exchanged. I now pronounce you husband and wife. The applause was deafening. My son had just sealed himself into a legal trap. Champagne flowed. Appetizers circulated. I kept my distance, observed. Celeste, glued to Rufus's arm, steered conversations, intercepted anyone who approached him. Classic control behavior. I mentally mapped the reception hall, noting a small library off the main hallway, perfect for a private conversation, furniture for reviewing documents. Dinner arrived. Assigned seating placed me at table 8, far from the head table where the newlyweds sat elevated. Deliberate. Undoubtedly Celeste's arrangement. I watched her, radiant, victorious, completely confident. Perfect. Then, after dessert, the DJ announced, "Now we'll hear from the bride's parents," followed by the father of the groom. Before the toasts began, Celeste excused herself, detouring to my table. She leaned in, her voice low, for my ears only. "Delbert, I want to thank you. You raised a wonderful son. Your job is complete now." She paused, gauging my reaction. I remained expressionless. "This is my family now. Rufus and I discussed it. We need space to build our marriage without interference. Meaning you should probably leave soon. You've been here for the ceremony. That's sufficient." Rufus asked me to stay for toasts, I said calmly. Rufus asks for many things when he's being sentimental. I'm telling you what's actually best for him. And frankly, her mask slipped, contempt flashing. You're in excess here. You don't fit with our friends, our lifestyle, our future. Go home. Don't come back. She straightened, smoothed her dress. I spoke quietly. All right, Celeste. She smiled, vindicated. But I'm taking someone with me when I leave. She paused, her smile faltering. Taking someone? What does that mean? My tone had finally registered. Her confidence wavered, microscopically. Enjoy your reception, Celeste. What's left of it? I stood and walked toward the DJ booth. She watched, uncertainty blooming into concern, but couldn't pursue without creating a scene. I reached the DJ booth as the bride's parents finished their generic well wishes. The DJ handed me the microphone. You're next, sir, father of the groom. I stepped forward, facing the 200 guests. Rufus watched from the head table, anxious, but expecting a conventional toast. Celeste's expression showed first real alarm. Thank you all for attending this celebration. I'm Delbert Boyd, Rufus's father. Standard opening. Guests relax slightly. Traditionally, this is the moment for a toast. A celebration. Well wishes. Welcoming a new family member. I paused. The room's energy shifted. Sensing irregularity. I'm not giving that toast. What I have to say is more important than tradition. I looked directly at my son. Rufus, I need to speak with you privately. Immediately. This cannot wait. He half stood. Dad, what are you? Rufus, I need to speak with you privately right now. This is extraordinarily important. Silence blanketed the reception. Celeste's face drained of color. This can wait. Let's continue the reception. Address family matters later. No, I interrupted firmly. This cannot wait. Rufus, give me 10 minutes. Private conversation. What I show you will change everything. The reception was frozen in confused silence. Guests whispered, unsure if this was planned drama or real conflict. Rufus stood fully, torn between my urgency and Celeste's restraining hand on his arm. She hissed something inaudible. He shook his head, stepped away from the table. 10 minutes, Dad. Then you need to explain why you're disrupting my wedding. He walked toward me. Celeste rose to follow. I raised my hand. Just Rufus. This conversation is between father and son. He's my husband now. Celeste protested. I have a right. You have no rights to this conversation. Rufus, please. The library, down that hall. Just us. Rufus nodded, uncertainty clear, but curiosity stronger. We walked toward the exit. Behind us, Celeste called out, her voice desperate. Rufus. Don't let him manipulate you. Whatever he's about to say. Her voice faded as we entered the hallway. I guided him to the library, opened the door, gestured him in. He entered. I followed, closing the door firmly. The muffled sounds of the agitated reception faded away. We were alone. The moment of truth had arrived. The library door clicked shut. Silence, thick and anticipatory, pressed around us. Rufus stood near the bookshelf, arms crossed defensively, jaw set. His wedding suit still perfect, boutonniere still fresh. Husband for less than 3 hours. All right, he said curtly. 10 minutes. You've destroyed my wedding reception for this. Show me whatever evidence justifies that. I removed the folder from my jacket. 2 inches thick, months of investigation, compressed into a portable form. I placed it on the mahogany table. My hands were steady. I'd spent too long preparing for this to tremble now. Before I open this, understand something. Everything inside was legally obtained. Nothing fabricated. Nothing misinterpreted. Independent verification is available for every claim. Why are you talking like a lawyer? Just show me. I opened the folder to the first section. This is testimony from Kevin Morgan. Rufus frowned. Celeste's first husband. His expression flickered. She told me she'd never been married. I slid the notarized document across the table. Read it. He picked up the pages reluctantly, scanning. Kevin's detailed statement, courtship, engagement after 4 months, the prenup, the financial manipulation, the $180,000 divorce settlement. Rufus read slowly, color draining from his face. This could be fake. Anyone could write this. Kevin signed it. He's willing to testify under oath. Here's his contact information. Call him right now if you doubt me. I pushed my phone across the table. Rufus stared at the document, not reaching for the phone. There's a second husband, I continued quietly. James Pritchard. Similar pattern, similar outcome. She's done this before, Rufus. Twice. You're the third target. No, the word was weak. She would have told me. Why would she tell you? That information destroys the illusion she's carefully built. I opened the second section. Photographs spilled across the table. Celeste and Daniel Krause at restaurants, entering hotels, walking through parks. Timestamps spanning March through August. Who is that? Rufus's voice was hollow. Daniel Krause, real estate agent. They've been involved for at least 8 months, longer than she's known you. I laid out the images chronologically. An early March meeting, an April hotel visit, a May afternoon at his condo, continuing through just 2 weeks ago. Every time she claimed a late work meeting, a client showing, she was with him. Rufus picked up a photo of them kissing outside a hotel, his hand trembling. You hired a private investigator to follow my fiancé? I hired an investigator after I accidentally saw them together. Would you have believed me without proof? This doesn't mean. Maybe it ended before we got serious? It didn't end. Look at the dates. This one, I pointed to a recent photo, was 3 days before your wedding. I opened the third section, financial documents. Look at the divorce settlements. The pattern of timing. Marry quickly. Stay 18 months to 2 years. File for divorce once significant assets are acquired. Your prenup? It's designed to maximize her financial access after 1 year. Stop. Rufus's voice broke. He couldn't finish. I pressed forward. I had to complete the presentation while his defenses were crumbling. During wedding planning, I recorded family conversations. You gave permission, remember? The family history project? Rufus nodded numbly. I recorded because I suspected manipulation. I opened my laptop, queued audio files. Listen. Celeste's voice filled the library. Warm, concerned. Delbert, have you updated your will recently? Estate planning is so important. The recording continued, her probing questions about property value, inheritance structures, succession planning. Each clip showed her calculated financial interest masked as helpful concern. Rufus listened with growing horror. One more piece, I said. Most important. I cued the final audio file. This was recorded in a hotel hallway. Audio quality isn't perfect, but the words are clear enough. I pressed play. Celeste's voice emerged, talking to Daniel. Celeste, 8 more weeks of this charade. Her laugh. Cruel and calculated. Daniel, and the father? He's a problem. Handled. I have isolated the son effectively. Old man can suspect whatever he wants. Rufus won't believe him now. Sound of ice and glass movement. Daniel, you said that about Morgan's brother. Celeste, this is different. Rufus is more malleable. After the wedding, the prenup activates. Give it 18 months. Daniel, 18 months playing devoted wife? Celeste, I've done longer. This one's easier. He actually believes I love him. Their laughter. I stopped the playback. Silence crushed the library. Rufus sat frozen, his face completely drained of color. His breathing had gone shallow. For 30 seconds, he didn't move. Then, that's her voice. Not a question. A statement. Yes. She called our marriage a charade. Yes. She said I'm malleable, that I believe she loves him. His voice cracked on the final words. I'm sorry, son. He stood abruptly, paced to the window, staring out at the manicured grounds where, hours ago, he'd married the woman whose voice still echoed. He actually believes I love him. The prenuptial contract, I said gently. It's designed to maximize her financial access. If you stay married 12 months, she's entitled to 40% of assets acquired during marriage. A legal trap disguised as mutual protection. Rufus turned from the window. His face had transformed. Shock gave way to something colder, harder. She planned this from the beginning. Researched me. Targeted me. Performed caring girlfriend. Manipulated me away from you. Married me, all for money. Yes. What do I do? His voice was empty. First decision is simple. Do you continue this reception, celebrating a marriage built on lies? Or do you end it now? He looked at the closed door. Beyond it, 200 guests waited. Celeste waited. Music probably played. I end it, he said quietly. Then louder. I end it now. He walked to the door, yanked it open, and strode down the hallway toward the reception. I followed, carrying the folder. We entered the reception hall together. The music stopped. The DJ noticed our entrance. Conversations died as guests turned. Celeste stood from the head table, relief crossing her face until she saw Rufus's expression. He walked directly to her, stopping 3 feet away. The entire room watched. The wedding is canceled, Rufus announced, his voice carrying to every corner. Gasps rippled through the guests. Celeste's face went white. Everyone can leave. The reception is over. I apologize for the disruption, but this marriage was a mistake. Please go. He turned, walking back toward the exit. Celeste found her voice, shrill. Rufus. What did he tell you? What lies? The truth, Rufus said, without turning. About Daniel. About your previous marriages. About your plans for our marriage. He's lying. He's manipulating you. Showed you fabricated evidence. Rufus stopped, turned. I heard your voice on recording. Discussing timelines. Calling me malleable. Laughing about how I actually believed you loved me. Her face strained further. That was taken out of context. What context makes 18 months of charade acceptable? Stop. Just stop, Celeste. He looked at the confused guests. Please leave. This is over. Celeste turned on me screaming. You destroyed my wedding. I'll sue you for harassment, defamation, invasion of privacy. Everything was obtained legally, I said calmly. One-party consent recording laws, standard surveillance, voluntary testimony. Your attorney will confirm it's admissible. You'll regret this, both of you. I'll take everything in court. You'll get nothing, Rufus said. The prenup is void due to fraud. My attorneys have already prepared annulment papers. He walked toward the exit. I followed. Behind us, chaos erupted. Guests standing, confused conversations, Celeste's voice rising in a desperate, broken protest. We pushed through the doors into the cool evening air. Father and son together, we drove away from Brookside Country Club in silence. Rufus sat in the passenger seat, still wearing his wedding suit, minus the boutonniere he'd torn off and discarded. His hands trembled slightly, shock settling into his system like poison. At my house, he went directly to the guest room, his childhood bedroom, essentially unchanged, and stayed there for 3 hours. I didn't intrude. Let him process alone. When he emerged, his face was blotchy from crying, but his voice was steady. Tell me what happens next legally. That night, we called Patricia Reynolds. She arrived within the hour, spreading the evidence across my dining table, explaining the legal strategy. Rufus listened like a man receiving a terminal diagnosis, absorbing information about the dissolution of the life he thought he'd built. 5 days later, Celeste's attorney served papers. She was suing for breach of contract and emotional damages. $1 million. Reynolds smiled when she read it. Perfect. She's engaging on legal ground where we're strongest. Rufus looked exhausted. Can she win? No. The contract was procured through fraud. Your father documented that extensively. But we'll need to prove fraudulent intent in court. That means presenting all evidence publicly. Kevin Morgan's testimony, surveillance, recordings, financial analysis. She paused, assessing Rufus. This will be painful. Your private humiliation becomes public record. Celeste's attorneys will argue you were a willing participant who changed his mind after the wedding. They'll paint you as vindictive. Let them, I said. Because we have her voice on recording, calling the marriage a charade, discussing an 18-month timeline, laughing about his belief in her love. We have 2 previous victims with identical patterns. Reynolds organized papers. The hearing is scheduled in 2 weeks. I'll file a counter-motion to void the contract based on fraud and request the court refer the matter to the district attorney for criminal investigation. The week before, Reynolds conducted practice testimony with Rufus. She played opposing counsel, attacking his credibility with brutal efficiency. "Mr. Boyd, isn't it true you willingly pursued a relationship with Ms. Morgan? That you proposed marriage? That you signed the prenuptial agreement after reviewing its terms?" Rufus, exhausted, struggled. "Yes, but I didn't know." "Didn't know what? That relationships require trust? Or did you simply regret your decision and concoct an elaborate fraud narrative to escape consequences? You hired a private investigator to follow your fiancé. Recorded private conversations. These are actions of a paranoid, controlling individual, not a victim." Rufus's hands clenched. Reynolds softened. "That's what they'll do. Twist facts, attack character. You need to stay calm. Stick to the evidence. When they attack, respond simply. I believed I was in an honest relationship. Evidence proved otherwise." The courthouse hearing room was smaller than I expected. Wood paneling, a judge's bench. Celeste sat at the plaintiff's table with two attorneys, designer suit projecting confidence. She avoided our eyes. Judge Margaret Chin reviewed the filings with evident skepticism. Reynolds presented our case first. "Your Honor, this isn't a simple contract dispute. It's exposure of systematic fraud. Ms. Morgan has a pattern of targeting financially stable men, marrying quickly, positioning herself legally, then divorcing profitably. Mr. Boyd is the third known victim." Kevin Morgan took the stand. Articulate, detailed, credible. He described identical courtship tactics, prenup manipulation, financial devastation. Celeste's attorney objected repeatedly, irrelevant. But Judge Chin allowed it. Pattern evidence is relevant to fraudulent intent claims. Under cross-examination, they tried to discredit Kevin. "Isn't it true you're bitter? That you contacted Ms. Morgan's subsequent partners seeking revenge?" "I contacted this young man's father," Kevin said firmly, "to prevent him from suffering what I suffered. That's not revenge. That's decency." The gallery observers took notice. Reynolds then played the hotel recording. The courtroom heard Celeste's voice, 18 months of charade. "He actually believes I love him." And the laughter. Judge Chen's expression hardened. Celeste whispered urgently to her attorneys. Reynolds's financial expert, a forensic accountant, testified about Celeste's divorce settlements. 2 previous marriages, both ending in substantial financial transfers. A pattern of timing suggesting calculated extraction. Ms. Morgan's income from consulting averages $40,000 annually. Yet, her lifestyle exceeds 3 times that. The discrepancy is explained by divorce settlements totaling over $400,000 combined. Celeste's attorneys argued circumstantial evidence, character assassination. But the momentum had shifted decisively. Judge Chin delivered her ruling from the bench. Having reviewed the evidence, including recorded admissions, testimony from a previous victim, and financial analysis, this court finds the prenuptial agreement was procured through fraudulent misrepresentation and concealment of material facts. The contract is void. Plaintiff's claims for breach and damages are dismissed with prejudice. She paused. Furthermore, evidence suggests potential criminal fraud. The court is referring this matter to the Multnomah County District Attorney for investigation into possible charges under Oregon fraud statutes. Ms. Morgan, you should consult with a criminal defense attorney. The gavel struck. Celeste's face went ashen. Her attorneys immediately requested a private conference. Reynolds leaned toward us. That's complete victory. She has nothing now. Outside the courthouse, late August afternoon sunshine felt surreal. Reporters swarmed, but Reynolds deflected them. Rufus stood on the steps, physically present but emotionally distant. "It's over," he asked quietly. "The civil case is over," I confirmed. "Criminal investigation is beginning. But for you, yes. You're free." He nodded slowly, processing. "I still can't believe I didn't see it. Every sign was there." "She's a professional," I said. "That's the point. Making marks not see the signs." As we reached my car, my phone buzzed. A text from Webb. Daniel Kraus just posted a public statement distancing himself from Celeste. Claims he was misled about the nature of her relationship with Rufus. Rats fleeing a sinking ship. I showed Rufus the message. He read it without expression. Then, finally, something like satisfaction crossed his face. Good, he said. Let everyone know what she is. We drove home together. Weeks passed. Rufus stayed in my guest room, emerging gradually from shock. The first week, mostly silent. The second, small conversations. The third, he offered the apology I hadn't requested, but he needed to give. Dad, I owe you an apology. For doubting you. For choosing her manipulation over your protection. You saw what I couldn't. I'm sorry. You trusted someone you loved, I replied. That's human nature. She exploited it professionally. But you listened when it mattered. At the wedding, you gave me those 10 minutes. That took courage. How do we fix our relationship? Same way you'd fix any structure. Assess the foundation, repair cracks, rebuild systematically. We resumed Sunday dinners, a simple routine, gradually rebuilding our connection. The fourth Sunday, he mentioned starting therapy. A counselor specializing in manipulation recovery. She's helping me identify the tactics I missed. That awareness prevents repeat. A month later, Rufus raised finances. The wedding cost $50,000. My savings are gone. I'll loan you $50,000. 3% interest, 5-year repayment. He looked surprised. You don't have to charge interest. This is a loan, not a gift. Loans preserve responsibility. You'll repay this because you'll take ownership of your recovery. He signed the agreement carefully. Thank you for treating me like an adult who made an expensive mistake. Early September, Reynolds called. The DA accepted Celeste's plea deal, 3 years probation, restitution, a criminal record. She left Portland, license revoked, reputation destroyed. Based on your case, Reynolds added, the DA found 2 additional potential victims. You stopped a serial predator. Late that August afternoon, Rufus and I stood on my terrace overlooking Portland, the sunset painting the sky orange and purple. I've been thinking about trust, Rufus said. I trusted her blindly. Now I'm paranoid. Neither is healthy. Trust is important, I agreed. But verification is more important. Trust, then verify. Watch for consistency between words and actions. Celeste's words were perfect. Her actions revealed the truth. Like blueprint inspection, he said. Design can be beautiful, but you verify the calculations. Exactly. You're an architect's son, after all. He smiled, the first genuine smile in months. I'm lucky some people don't have a father who builds cases to save them. Some do. They just need to recognize protection when it's offered. I recognize it now. We stood in comfortable silence as the sun set. Our relationship healed. Justice served. A fresh start established. The architect's work was complete.